Creating a shadow with ink behind your focal image gives the illusion that the focal image is popping off the paper. Today on Stamp TV, I'm going to show you how to create a drop shadow behind a solid stamped image, and then I'm going to show you another little tip. Let me show you the tools and products you're going to need to do this technique. First, you're going to need some ink, and to create my drop shadow, I'm going to use the Cantaloupe ink by Memento, and then for my focal image, I'm going to use the Tuxedo Black ink by Memento. I've decided to stamp my focal image on some of the patterned paper from the new Springtime Silhouette Stamp TV kit. You can do this on white too, but it's really pretty on patterned paper, and it's something fun to try. Then I'm going to use an image from the new Springtime Silhouette Stamp TV kit, and I chose this solid floral image. And then I'm also going to use this butterfly image to create some background paper. And then finally, to do the drop shadow, you're going to need a Stamp-A-Majig. So I have the tool here and the imaging sheet. First, using some of the Cantaloupe Memento ink, I'm going to create a background on my patterned paper. And I really like doing this type of thing, taking a piece of patterned paper that just has a texture and then using a stamped image in a complementary color to just create a little bit of busyness behind my focal image. So I'm just randomly going to stamp this butterfly all over this piece of patterned paper. You can see it's nice and light and delicate, and see how I turn it as I go? Just a couple more to fill in these little areas, and you can see I'm stamping off the paper where my image appears as though it's just coming in and it's been cut, and that really gives it a finished patterned paper look. You don't want to stamp all of your images just in the center of the paper. A little bit there. Okay, so there I have my completed pattern background, and that's going to go onto a piece of black cardstock. So I'll just attach that now. Now, to create my focal image, I'm going to first stamp my image using the same Cantaloupe ink onto the same colored pattern paper. Now you can see that's very subtle, but it's nice and crisp, and you can see all of the detail. Now my next step is to take the Stamp-A-Majig and create the image sheet for this image in black ink. There we go. Now I've created my placement. Now, instead of trying to aim this right on top, what I want to do is I want to stagger it just a little bit so you can see the image is here, and then just staggering it a little bit so that that cantaloupe ink sticks out and you can see it, and that will create the illusion of the shadow, like that. And then I'm going to replace the tool and ink up my stamp. And stamp the whole thing right on top. And you can see now that I've created a shadow. You can see how that looks like it's just popped up a little bit off of the piece of paper, and the reflection, the shadow behind the image is creating that cantaloupe color part. What I've done here is I've cut out my focal image using some Nestability's Petite Ovals and a Petite Scalloped Oval. and I've matted them all together. I'm going to put that on my card as my focal image. But take a look at this. You can see here, when I lay this piece down on top of the pattern paper behind it, it's a little bit difficult to see that white scalloped edge. It just doesn't really pop off the paper. And even if I wanted to make a more clean and simple card, if I laid that on top, it's very difficult to see the edge of that scallop. So one way that you can accentuate the edge a little bit is to take a sponge and take a little bit of ink. And in this case, I'm going to use a little bit of the Memento black ink. I already have that on my sponge dauber. Just a tiny little bit. And you can actually rub some of it off on a scratch piece of paper before you start. And then just very lightly, just touch the edges of your oval, of your scallops. This can be done on any shape, obviously a circle, a scalloped square, or even just a regular square, circle, oval. Just a little bit of ink on the edges, just like this. Now it really doesn't change the look of the oval all that much when you see it by itself, but when you lay it down now that little bit of darkness around the edge distinguishes the scallops from the background. And if you were to put that onto a regular piece of white cardstock, you can still see those scalloped edges, even though the piece of cardstock, the scallop still appears white. It doesn't really appear too dark. It still appears white. Here's a peek at my final card project. And all I did here was add a little bit of black and white gingham ribbon and pop the focal image on and added a greeting from the new Springtime Silhouettes Stamp TV kit. Shadow stamping works best with solid images, and you can also use this technique for bold word stamps that will help you create a greeting that looks almost 3D.